And welcome back to another episode of the Brutally Honest Loan Officer podcast. I am Stephen Brock, and with me, as always, is Mr. Derek Brown. Say hi, Derek.
Hey guys.
It's a podcast. You can't just wave. You
Hi,
gotta
Derek.
speak.
Oh,
Well,
you
we
weren't
record
telling
it.
me to say hi? You were just saying hi in general?
I
He was
was
just
just
saying
saying
hi in
hi in
general.
general.
And with us is the Mr. Famous. What you're a COO, right? That's what it is.
That's correct.
COO
I'm
of
cool.
I'm the coup of LoKation, Mr. Jonathan Lickstein. Welcome to our podcast.
I'm very happy to be here. Thanks for welcoming me to the Brutally Honest Loan Officer. And I'm looking forward to be brutally honest with all of you.
Can't
Perfect.
expect
That's all we
anything
ask.
less. That's all we ask. Just be
Yeah.
honest. All right, so got a couple questions for you, but this is probably the most important question we ask everybody on here, and that is, do you believe in aliens?
Do I believe in aliens? I'm going to say yes. There's got to be life out there, whether we know it or we don't know it. I do believe there is life out there. So yeah. And there's a few people I know in the local community. I'm going to say that they might be aliens, like Men in Black style, wearing human skin.
I love it. We haven't had somebody say yes like so directly in a while.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know.
some people are like,
Some
like you almost went religious on them. Like they're like, oh, how do I
Yeah, it's
answer
like, who are
this?
you voting for? Do you believe in it?
yeah, we tried to stay away from politics. Now that the election's over, we don't have to worry too much about that anymore.
I'm so happy the election is over. I think we can all take a nice deep breath of relaxation that we won't get any more text messages or phone calls or have people being socially charged with their political views on social media. They
Oh
can go
yeah.
back to talking about when they go to the bathroom or what they ate for lunch.
Yeah, exactly. I'm looking forward to seeing people's quesadillas on Facebook and not like red versus blue and hatred. So
Yeah.
Um, well, Jonathan, I know like Steven knows you, and I guess you guys are kind of part of the same realtor association. But I don't know anything about you. So tell me a little bit about yourself, how you got started in the business, where you grew up. I mean, I don't know, give me your origin story.
All right, I'll give you an abridged version. We'll go Cliff's Notes on this one.
Cool.
So I was born in Washington, D.C., and lived in Northern Virginia for the first part of my life. You commonly ask people, where did you grow up? And I'm still waiting to find out when I'm going to grow up. But I was born and raised in Northern Virginia, a little residential area called Fairfax, about 15 minutes outside of D.C. HTTR, go Redskins, I mean Commanders. So I lived there till I was about at the end of middle school. Came down to South Florida, lived here, went to high school here, and then I went on this tremendous life experience. Went to college, lost my ROTC scholarship, tearing my a tendon in both of my ankles playing baseball. And instead of, I don't really come from anything of wealth in my family. So instead of paying back Georgia Tech $30,000 a year, I said, you know what? I'm going to go take my full ride, go to the University of Florida and follow in footsteps of my family and become an attorney. So I had a semester off in between, did some traveling, and ended up not coming back. I spent the next 5.5 years living on a little island off the coast of Honduras called Roatan, and I happened to fall into real estate there. So, third world country, Caribbean destination, all contracts and documents are done in Spanish, and I'm this American dude who doesn't speak the language, living there on vacation, scuba diving, and I picked up and started to learn Spanish. So that's how I got into real estate, was serving deli sandwiches to a real estate broker who worked next door and saying, hey, I want to try and live on this Caribbean paradise. I need a real career or a real job. And started in real estate right there, doing long-term property management and vacation rentals. That's what got me into it. Fast forward, came back to the US, interviewed with 10 companies in 7 days because I wanted to come home, and started with LoKation. And that's the company I'm currently with. I've been here now for 14 years, and it's been a tremendous experience here, going from a small boutique brokerage with 17 agents to what we are today. About to hit 4,400 realtors affiliated with our company and spanning 6 states, but based in Florida here.
That is just, I got taken back when you said, like, you kind of just took some months off, went to a Caribbean island, and then it just turned into years, and that was
Yeah.
your start in real estate.
It's a typical story. You go and
No, it's so not the typical story. Like
well,
it's usually
I
like, oh
went
well,
and
I was in college, I was working this job, and then I had a friend that was doing real estate, so I joined them, or my mom or dad was a realtor, so like it wasn't working out what I was doing, so I went to go work for them, but you working on a tropical island got into real estate.
but it is the same story because someone asked or recommended, or there was a circumstance that made
Yeah.
you get in. And serving lunches at this deli I was managing to a real estate broker who had started this brokerage down there. His name is Mike Carter, still friends with him today. And him and his partner had started the management company, ended up taking over the real estate company. And it was him asking, hey, is this something that you'd want to do? Started, loved it, fell in love, and continued on with that. But you want to go back to the real story. It's this is the typical part. I went to a Caribbean island and I met a girl.
Wow.
Sure.
You
And
left that part out.
His
yep,
girl was
did
real
leave that
estate.
part out. And that's the mother of my three kids. And yeah, the rest is history. And we are where we are.
Now I believe you. Okay. You left out the girl and I was skeptical, but
Yeah, yeah.
that's
But
awesome. Okay. So that's how you first got into real estate.
mhm,
Now you're the COO, so Chief Operating Officer,
mhm.
handling a lot of the operations. Do you still sell real estate? Like licensed
No,
realtor? Okay.
so I became non-compete when I took over the managing broker role. That's
Okay.
going back about 8 years now. So I was a managing broker for quite a while, and I'm still one of the employing brokers in the licensing here in Florida. But my role has changed. Instead of the day-to-day managing of agents, I'm now the day-to-day managing of the brokers who manage the agents, as well as the remainder of the office staff. So it's been an incredible learning experience because you think you know what you're doing, and in Florida, I know the ins and outs like the back of my hand. I could do it with my eyes closed. God forbid I'm ever made blind for the rest of my life. I'll be fine. But I've learned quite a bit on how real estate is different in different states. Georgia, Alabama, Texas, Colorado, it's just so vastly different
Right.
that we look and on such a granular level to believe that we know what we know, but it's only where we are. And if you pick up and you transplant it to a different marketplace, the concepts are very similar, but the legalities are massively different.
Yeah, it's definitely, being licensed myself in multiple states. Like, all right, how do they need this loan stuff done? When does this have to be done? Texas is a little bit more stricter. You go to Tennessee, they're compared to Florida, super relaxed on their standards of the contract. I'm like, well, where is the loan commitment date? Where is this? And they're like, we just kind of hope you do a good job. I'm like, what? Like that's it?
They say knowledge is power, but ignorance is bliss. And there's a
Yeah.
happy somewhere in between there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So in your career, Caribbean island real estate COO, when was that moment for you? Because you to be boots on the ground real estate agent to the COO, I know you're still very heavily involved with everybody in the transactions of like, not just a COO that's just sitting there doing nothing and doesn't know what's going on in the market. But when was that defining moment for you that you're like, you know what, I want to go more leadership side of things. And this is what's making me choose this.
So when I was living in Central America, I was a practicing agent and had gotten to the point where I was the number two grossing agent in the marketplace and only number two to my boss, who was there at the time. So you go there and you say, there's got to be more. I'm not going to keep spinning my wheels constantly. New clients come in, you sell them, and then you start over again. So when I was looking, my son was about 2 at the time, my oldest, who's now 16. Holy crap. But 2 years old, I say there's got to be more. So I look at transitioning back to the United States, reacclimating myself to America and coming up here. And I start with LoKation back then. And my role back then was kind of going backwards. I wasn't really practicing for myself. I was more training others to do as I had learned, as well as helping them generate and create marketing pieces. And it was going through the experience with a brand new licensed agent from zero to hero, right? They came in with no knowledge. You mentor them, you coach them, you help them get their marketing plan set up and go all the way through the process for them making a career out of it. And that was a tremendously rewarding and haunting experience at the same time. And I'll kind of lead into the next piece here. But taking an agent from making nothing and struggling on the day-to-day expenses for their life and getting to the point where they're financially comfortable and confident on how they're running it themselves, that right there was why I chose what I'm doing. It was being part of the journey, the trials and tribulations of growing a business from infancy and getting to the point of being successful. And that was a really awesome experience. Now, I mentioned haunting. That's because the way we were structured at the time was a 50-50 split. So an agent would be profitable and they would leave for a 10% increase on their split. And there was zero loyalty to it,
Yeah.
which tore me apart internally. And that's actually where the concept of our company came from. It was, what do agents really need? And how can we make sure that nobody ever leaves for a small increase on their commission split? We're going to offer the most aggressive structure out there. Now I get to do it on a macro scale where I can help 100 agents at a time and coach them through starting their business to becoming profitable. And it just amplified that rewarding experience across the board.
Well, I like that. Yeah. You see some of these people that go from I say real estate to leadership or real estate to coaching, and it's like sometimes there's a passion for it, but when you talk about it, you can really see it and hear it. I personally know you, so of course I know more than just this podcast of it, but that's kind of why I wanted on here is you to talk about that side of this stuff and the side of stuff of the association. How did you get into? Because anybody listening, still technically president-elect for next year. How did you start your career on the association side, and what are the benefits from it? Because I have, being an affiliate with the association, I have realtors come to me, and I'm like, you can help you grow your business and learn the ins and outs, but let's hear from like basically the horse's mouth on it.
Yeah, so there's a few different ways to digest that question, but we'll start here. So we had grown this brokerage to roughly 400 agents back in 2016 when I guess the origin story of association volunteerism came into play. And I hadn't been involved at all. And keep in mind, at this point, I was already 11 years into the business. I had started in Central America and transitioned up here and kept going. So at the time, our local association was still separate. It's not what it is today. And for the greater Fort Lauderdale realtors, they used to do campaigning and voting for electing their president. So we had a candidate come into our office to campaign and ask for our votes. And I started asking her questions. And Stephen, for context, this is Bonnie Metviner, who came into our office and was campaigning to be president. And I sat there and just kind of went through all the experiences I had at the time as the managing broker for 400 agents and said, there's got to be more. Like, we have to be able to educate more people or get more involved and kind of lift up this profession a little bit more. And so she helped me get onto the grievance committee, which was the first volunteerism I had at the association. And after my first meeting, I said, oh my God, this is for me. This is reviewing cases of what people did wrong, information that I can directly bring back. And not only is it rewarding for my knowledge, but I get to share these stories, obviously removing names and companies, but I get to share the stories of what other people are doing wrong to make everybody else better. So that right there from day one was a massive benefit for me as a managing broker. And from there, the rest was history. I joined the Leadership Academy locally that following year in 2018 after my first year of involvement. And you get out of the association what you put into it. So when I was at those meetings, I was locked in. You see a lot of people that sit there and they're on their phones in their meetings. They're texting other people. Their mind is not really there. I went in there and just locked into the program and taking away from it everything you put in, right? So giving that 100% effort, I believe I grew a lot as a leader for my company, a leader for others in the industry, kind of breaking down the gang lines. I'm sure you've heard of this. When a loan officer changes mortgage companies, they now work for a rival gang and you can't be friends with them anymore. It works the same way on real estate. You leave the company, you go from Remax to Keller Williams, you can no longer talk to anybody with a balloon on your shirt.
Yeah.
You don't, the, what is it, the Capulets and the Montagues, you can't cross those lines.
Yep.
So kind of getting in through the association, it was this amicable space that was safe from all gangs. It was the local community center where everyone would get together and you forget your brand at the door and you walk in and everybody's pushing towards the same initiative. And I still remember the first day of Leadership Academy. It was this silly icebreaker team building game. But I said in that meeting, wow, this is awesome. This is intoxicating to come in here and see everybody leave that behind and just be people pushing things forward. So I said in that meeting, eventually one day I want to be president of the association and be able to share that on a bigger level. And fast forward 6 years later, here we are in January, I will be the president. So very excited for that pathway. I would say anyone who wants to get involved in the association, what is the benefit? There's a few things. Number one, you don't just learn from your own experiences, you learn from the experience of 40,000 members. That's at our association. But you learn so much more in a faster pace than you would on your own. And number two is the network. It's tremendous. The number one thing in anybody's niche in real estate, whether it's title, mortgage, real estate, residential, commercial, it doesn't matter. Your network is tremendously valuable as you conduct transactions and you get to be more well known within the community. So the association puts that stuff on steroids and just catapults you forward if you buy into it, if you lock in. If you're halfway in, you're only getting half the benefits. You jump in feet first and just immerse yourself in, and you will get so much more out of it than you think.
Yeah, I think there's so much to get from it and to give it. Like, I can speak from, like I said, the affiliate side. I being on the affiliate board and being, I guess, the liaison for a couple of the marketing madnesses for the affiliate side when they come up like, okay, what do you get out of this? And I'm like, I can look back and like 75% of my business probably comes from the board. It some way, somehow. I met them at somewhere or from somebody that I
Yeah,
knew
like
at the
third tier
board.
referrals type of thing.
Yeah,
Like
it's
I
all
met this
like if I
person with
didn't if I
them.
didn't start
Yeah.
at the association with these people, like I wouldn't have met, this fourth person down the line kind of thing. And like you said, it's some people give money, some people give their time, some people give whatever they can to it, but what you put into it, you get out of it. So
Yeah, from your perspective, Stephen, as an affiliate, if you go in and you just sponsor a class, that's halfway in.
yeah,
But if you go and you sponsor the class and you attend and you genuinely want to meet people that are there, that's where you get the benefit.
exactly.
So same thing goes. Absolutely.
Yeah, I
Uh,
know when I started going, of course, it was like coming around from like, okay, we're having marketing madness and gardens, and we're still doing it on Zoom and then half in person. And I'm like, there's four people here. Like, what is this? And I'm talking to them, they're like, oh yeah, we used to be, filled to the room. I'm like, why? Like, why is there nobody? Like, well, I'm like, cancel the Zoom. And they're like, what do you mean cancel? Like, stop having on
Yes.
Zoom and force people in. And they finally agreed to do it. And like a month later, we were starting to pack it. You got
yeah,
to
that's been a
bring those
tremendous
people.
program.
Yeah, it's amazing.
A lot of people they get involved, and the biggest reward they get is just being comfortable speaking in front of 10 people,
Yeah.
getting over the ability to speak publicly. Which, if you're an agent, my gosh, that's a tremendous piece to get over because you don't present yourself or sell yourself at all in this business, right? Yeah, every time you talk to somebody, and it's funny how much of a lost art it is of just conversing genuinely.
Yeah. Set
Which
up.
is sad.
It's
Yeah.
sad because most people are sitting there. I would say they're listening to you. They're listening to you to stop talking so they can say what they want to say instead of actually listening. They're like, all right, he stopped talking, so let me say that. And that form of actually communicating back and forth is almost lost, like you said.
Yeah, what's that saying? You have to, your God gave you two ears and one mouth, so use
Right.
them proportionally.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think I've gotten better at that over the years. Right, Stephen? Yeah, still
Yeah,
working on
still
it.
working on
Okay.
it.
Jonathan, in your current role as COO, what is what's your favorite part about doing that? Because it sounds like you love the real estate side of things. You loved really helping other realtors. So is that what you're able to do on a regular basis as far as helping with the brokers that then lead to the agents?
So yeah, I'm also one. I have trouble delegating and letting go, like everybody. So I still do work with agents. I don't kind of insulate myself and stay invisible, which my calendar doesn't love. But at the same time, I want to be accessible and available. I hop on calls with agents every single day. So in one sense, yes, it's me supporting the brokers to feel the same passion that I have and directly helping agents. But at the same time, I get to kind of feed my own desire to help directly when it's available, obviously in my calendar. But my favorite part about being a chief operating officer is I get to do the best of both worlds. So when I have time, I can still do what I used to do, and it's very much ingrained into who I am. That way, I have my ear to the pavement, and I still know what's going on in the industry. Transactionally speaking, for an agent, I want to understand their perspective. That makes me a more powerful and efficient chief operating officer.
Right.
So I'm combining my old world with my new world. And my old world before real estate, I think I mentioned to you guys, I went to Georgia Tech. I'm a techie at heart. I went for mechanical engineering. I love knowing how things work and how they connect. So now taking that technology background with this, I can't say newfound anymore, but this acquired education and experience in real estate lets me
Right.
blend technology and real estate, which is so prevalent in today's market. So I get to work on technology platforms and making things efficient for agents, and then subsequently teaching the agents and getting them to buy into the passion and the methodology. So it's like the best of all worlds for me.
What is, I'm not gonna say, when I say a real estate story, what's the memorable real estate story, maybe from like a coaching standpoint or a leadership standpoint, that maybe the other agent you saw like the light come on suddenly with them? Like, can you
Yeah,
walk us through that?
absolutely. So I'll give you one story. This is an agent who was working in a hotel, had gotten his license and was going to do it part time. He was working as a bellhop in a hotel in Fort Lauderdale, and he was living with his girlfriend. He just found out she was pregnant, and he came in and sat down with me and said, "Hey, I can't do this long term. I need to be responsible. I need to get my life together. What would you suggest?" And I said, "Well, if you want to fast track this, you're going to be a father. You kind of need some money to make money." So I helped him with his initial sphere and getting over the comfort level of talking about what he does in real estate with the people he would meet through the hotel. And he ended up getting a $500,000 sale out of that, and kind of coaching him from just going through that one transaction. The average person would spend your money and go away, and you're in the same position you are today, or you were yesterday. So we had him invest and allocate a big portion of that commission, about $15,000 actually, and build a presence for himself, a website, a marketing campaign, and start doing some lead generation. And within 3 months, he was able to quit the job at the hotel and go full time real estate. That was now 9 years later. He is still full time in real estate, making six figures every year. He's bought his own home, he's bought an investment property, he's financially stable, and kind of going through that whole trajectory. How often do I talk to him now? Maybe once a month. But that person and I have been locked into a long term relationship, just not like that, guys. But we've been locked into a long term professional relationship that, there's a lot of trust, a lot of respect, and the number of people he's told that story to has helped grow my business here. And it wasn't with an idea of, I want to help you close this deal so I can take money from it, or I want to help you grow and do more so I can keep making money off of you. It was genuinely looking out for this guy's interest to help him build a longevity in his career that will self sustain. How much do I really help him consistently? I don't. I don't have to. And it's the baseline that you set from the beginning that he continues on with. And being part of that story allows me to relive that growth experience over and over with different agents. So that's one of them.
Yeah, that sounds like it's kind of similar to my story too. 2019, I had been licensed, but hadn't really been like actively producing as far as like mortgage loans go and stuff like that. I had a small base salary that I was riding on. And so January 1st, 2019 is when I go commission only. January 1st, 2019 is when I found out we were pregnant with our first child. So my daughter, Audrey. So immediately that day, after being super excited and loving on my wife, I called my branch manager. I was like, can't do commission only. Like, I'm going to need a small base salary, something, baby's on the way. My branch manager was like, oh, okay. Yeah, we're not doing that. And I was like, oh my God, what do you mean? And he's like, no, you're going to be fine. You just like, it's going to, be a little scary, but I've got you. And we're going to do like, this is what you're going to do. You're going to work on your sphere, start networking more, do this, this, and this. And it was probably the best thing that I ever did,
It's really
because
scary in the transition, though.
super scary.
Yeah.
But looking back, best thing ever.
Yeah.
So
Sometimes you just have to be bold enough to make that plunge, take that plunge, and see where it goes. Bet on yourself.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
I like the commission only because it drives you.
Yeah.
It,
Until you
it's,
don't have any transactions, and then it's a little scary.
yeah. Then it gets scary when you roll that donut and that money. Like, ooh, this don't look so good. But
Well, I do like that perspective though. Being commission only, you push yourself,
yeah,
and agents go through that every day. You wake up unemployed. You have to figure out where your next paycheck's coming from, because there's not somebody just stroking it to you every other week.
yep.
Well, and that's like, I know that some people use that mindset, like you wake up unemployed. I look at it as more like you wake up self-employed because it's on me.
Yeah.
It's not on anybody else. I'm not just hoping that no, it's me, myself, and I. Let's go get it.
I
Mm.
like it. Like
Um,
the aspect of being commission only driving you is like if I don't make this phone call, it's one less thing my kids can do, one less
well,
event that I can take them to, one less meal out that we can have. So like, why don't you just make the call? Like when you write it to like, all right, I'm taking away from my family by not doing this, usually changes a lot of people's mindset. I mean, like how Derek talked about, having the kid, having his daughter, and how you talked about the realtor Jonathan having, pregnant on the way. Like when you look at the family part of it, you're like, all right, yeah, I gotta make this call, I gotta do this, I gotta do that.
yeah,
Yeah, and when you have a kid or you're expecting your significant other's pregnant or whatever that might be, that completely changes your perspective and what's important.
Yeah,
oh
Uh,
yeah,
and you are more worried about providing rather than it being about you.
yeah,
yeah, yeah. And like me wanting to make more money and all that had nothing to do with like wanting to buy a new truck or get some fancy shoes or anything like that. It was all about like, there's not going to be a moment where my child needs something and I can't do it. Yeah. So I don't know, but that's just evolving too. Like as a man, I guess, you know, fatherhood was good for me.
So I'm gonna
Um,
I'm gonna reverse this on you real quick, Derek. You
sure.
talked about your transition and finding out your spouse was pregnant. What drives you today?
I wish I had it. I have a little picture frame, but I
she
have it
she
on
goes
my
to Disney a lot. That's what.
yeah, affording my wife's Disney addiction. Yeah. So, my children, because I've got a son now, Bennett, he's two. So I've got a 2-year-old son, 5-year-old daughter. My wife's a teacher. And I don't know, just being able to provide again, just for it's different now because originally, like what, 5 years ago, I had no idea how expensive diapers were, and I'm like, oh my God, I need to close loans so I can afford diapers. So now it's just a little bit different too. And as I'm getting older and like I look at my sphere and I have a couple other friends that are older, and now like I'm excited to invest in 529, which, I mean, if you had asked me 8 years ago what I thought about a 529, I would have had to ask you what a 529 was. College savings funds for kids. And I don't know, it's a little different. But I've got this little picture frame and I use it as motivation for if I don't feel like making calls. And it's got things that I want to buy, pay for like my family. And then for my kids, and like one of them is like pay for Audrey's wedding. I want to pay for my daughter's wedding. So I have that sitting there that I want to pay for Audrey's wedding. And if I don't want to make my calls, then I just have to call her and tell her that she doesn't get a wedding
Well, you have a
because I
long
didn't want to make
time.
calls.
You have a long time to prepare for that. She's not allowed to date anybody until she's what, 40?
Yeah. Yeah. But well, she looks like her mom but acts like me. So I think I'm in trouble. So I don't know. Might as well plan accordingly, and you know, if she
Yeah,
doesn't want to date for a while, I support that so much.
that's why I had all boys. I don't want to have to worry about dating boys. Well,
Gotcha.
it's 2024. You never know.
Yeah.
It'd probably be a little
Um,
different.
Jonathan, as far as the market goes, we've seen a lot. I'm sure you've had the conversation about interest rates and home values, and just over the past year, it's been a little bit difficult. We've had the NAR settlement. That's been a bumpy ride. Um, as far as the real estate market evolving, what do you see coming in our future? What is important that realtors need to be paying attention to? Are you concerned about this NAR settlement and stuff? Like, I don't know. Give me your
So
take on the market right now.
there's a couple different angles of that question. As far as the NAR settlement, am I worried about that? Not at all.
Right.
So number one, NAR settled. We were outside of the parameters of being protected by NAR settlement because of our production during that year. But I'm very happy to report that we did settle the case separately. So now our company is done and out of it as of last week.
Cool.
But with that being said, knowledge is power in this case. And we went through this massive campaign, and with the size of our roster, it was like, lock us in a basement. We got to get through this. And we personally contacted every one of our agents, starting from the top down in production levels, as far as who would be impacted.
Right.
So having those one-on-one conversations, we were able to help each agent with how they were planning on attacking things.
Gotcha.
The conversation role play of with a buyer,
Yeah, an
and
individual approach
a
versus
very
like
individualized
just
approach.
one email out to the whole company, like, hey, here's what you can expect.
Right.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So doing that individualized approach, I'm not really seeing any hiccups or speed bumps or anything when it comes to that stuff. It's the only circumstances that are coming up is not like the sky is falling situation. It's more, here's the circumstances for this buyer or this transaction. How do I properly navigate that?
Right.
And those are easy conversations once you've done the one-on-ones, because everyone's operating on the same baseline. I haven't seen any massive compression when it comes to compensation, or that many agents that are leaving the business because the conversations are complicated. You go back prior to this whole lawsuit, and I was one of those brokers who said, I hate buyer broker agreements. I don't like doing them. If you don't want to work with me, I don't want to work with you.
Right.
And just pushing the loyalty really hard up front without a piece of paper to force them into it. But now everybody has to do it. So it's
Yeah.
leveled the playing field and made that conversation a million times easier. You come to me, you're going to have to sign one. You go to the next guy down the street, you go to the woman in the next neighborhood. We're all requiring the same thing. So those combos have gotten a lot simpler. Um, with that being said, where do I think the market's going? I think we're in a really healthy spot. And I know transaction count is down, actual quantity of transactions is down, but I think there's a lot of parameters out there like interest rates, and we had the election until recently that were playing into that. And it all comes down to uncertainty. When there is an upcoming election, it's not that having a different person in leadership power is really going to make that much of an impact to the individual consumer home buyer.
Right.
But at the same time, it's everyone has become so politically charged that there are consumers who leave neighborhoods because their neighborhood is predominantly red or blue and they're not. So it's funny how politics drives even transactions to occur from neighborhood to neighborhood, county to county, district to district. And that's something that's very intriguing. But when all of these practice changes came into play, we have this really nice marketplace for it to come in right now, which is almost a balanced market. Inventory has increased in our local marketplace, so there are more options. taking supply and demand into consideration, lower demand, higher supply, sellers are going to be more amenable to the compensation convo
Right.
and structuring deals in a different way. So I don't think we're getting to the point on inventory where it's so flooded on the market that prices drive down. And taking a page out of the book of all the economists, both locally and at the national level, it's a pretty positive outlook. We're not seeing a massive recession in home prices. We're just seeing negotiability with how to structure transactions, which I think really was an underlying benefit of the settlement coming out. It allows for more capability of negotiating and structuring deals in different ways. So, what am I excited for? I'm excited for consumer confidence to continue to rise with dropping interest rates and Fed rates, even though they don't directly correlate. Consumer
Thank
confidence
you.
will
Say it
increase.
again.
You're
Well,
welcome. Uh,
Every
so the
time it
Fed
happens,
rate,
I get a flood of calls. I'm like,
oh
but that's a
no.
good thing, right? And this is one case where misinformation for consumers is actually a positive thing.
yeah,
It's a reminder of maybe you want to get off your tush and go buy a house, even though it really didn't make a difference for you. It's causing you to think about it.
yeah.
Right.
And that, real estate transactions drive so much in the United States economy, both locally, statewide, and on a national level, that if we want to avoid going into a negative recession, we want to initiate real estate transactions happening. Um, so I'm pretty optimistic when it comes to 2025. I think it's going to be a fantastic year. It certainly can't get worse when it comes to transaction quantity, but I think everyone's done a really good job of taking this downtime to educate themselves and be armed to make 2025 their best year since COVID.
So what is something you might be seeing that people are getting ready for 2025? We're hitting the holidays, we're hitting our that naturally usually the market slows down anyways during that time. So it just might feel a little extra slow now. What is something that you think that a realtor should be doing to set themselves apart? Maybe something that you think they might be missing. Like, what are you telling your brokers to tell realtors and stuff?
So I hate to sound cliche, but setting yourself up with a business plan for what you're going to do with accountability measures is probably at its purest form the most important thing you're going to do. And it's getting yourself away from paying to play into a long-term sustainable business model. Not having to pay XYZ company to send you buyer leads. How are you branding and generating your own yourself? And that, a lot of that is just bridging the gap between your personal interest and your professional desires. Start bringing your professional desires into what you do every day. A story I tell all the time is the number one source of referral business I got was being a dad. It was being involved in my kids' baseball games and in the governance of the local Little League. I got so much business from that organization, and I never told anybody I was in real estate. So that was my mistake. I probably could have done more, but then I might not be a broker today. I might still be selling and making more money, as brokers are broker than your agent. Uh, right. But it's taking those personal interests and just genuinely meeting people and having conversations. And when we would communicate, the easiest way to give out your phone number was your business card. And that's where real estate came into play. So
Right.
if they know, like, and trust you as a human being, they're more inclined to use you in your profession. Um, so where should agents be focusing? Look at where your online reputation is. Look at what your online presence looks like. Google yourself. Consumers will do so, and make sure you come across as a person they should know, that they like and can trust you based on your online reputations. Trying to get away from the portals of paying to play and focusing more on building your sphere of influence on a larger scale.
Yeah, I think you hit like this the online part. I want to mention one thing because I teach a lot of agents on social media, and it's like you can create the best content in the world, but when I go to your page, your profile, can I tell in 2 seconds what you do? And a lot of people don't. I'm like, that's your, yeah, content's great, everything's great, but if I like it and then go to your thing, your profile, and I have no clue how to contact you or what the like who you are, what was the point?
Yeah,
So.
so many people are hesitant to put a good representation on social media because they want it to be perfect. Social
Oh,
media is not about being perfect. It's about being genuine.
Mhm.
Right.
Like, be yourself on there. If you're a quirky, odd individual who loves Star Wars, be that person. There's other people
Right.
out there who do, and they're more inclined to work with you for that. Nobody's not going to work with you because you were a fan of Darth Vader and Obi-Wan Kenobi's saber battle.
Um,
I think Jonathan's speaking from personal experience.
No, not at all.
no, but like what he just said on accountability too, like I can tell you right now, well, and Steven and I are both involved in coaching. Um, and so we're coached by top producers, people like they're actually loan officers currently working in our environment. But there's certain things that we do. We've got a success tracker, a lead tracker. So I hate to say it's homework, but it's stuff that we fill out. We track our business. We know where it's coming from. We track our weeks. We know what a productive week looks like. But then it's also the camaraderie and the accountability that comes with the coaching group that has done great things for my business. And so like when you're talking about just, you know, not necessarily recommending coaching, but accountability, knowing where your business is at. I think that that's just the start of how to have a successful 2025.
Yeah,
Just like,
a big key is most just create the business plan and like that's the way I'm going to go, and then stick it on their desk and don't touch it again. You've got to break that out. Add calendar reminders on your schedule to open it up, dust it off, and look at where you stand from based on where you were setting yourself up in November, December the prior year,
right.
and hold yourself accountable. You've got to do one thing to keep pushing the barrel down the hill, or it's just never going to get there.
Yeah, yeah. The smart goals, smart goals.
Steven, I don't know if you have any final questions. I did have one last question from me. You
Go
guys
ahead.
spelled location wrong. So I'm
No,
curious
we didn't.
about no, tell me about the K. What's
So we went through a rebrand in 2017,
okay?
uh, and there's a few reasons why. But we were previously called the K Company Realty. After
Okay,
our founder's last name starts with a K. Shocker.
gotcha.
So we were the K Company Realty, and to ease the transition and a rebrand, we wanted to bring that same stylized K into the new branding. So if you do location with a K, it kind of has a play of not only location being the number one thing in real estate, right? Most important thing. But
Yeah,
at the same time, it does come across as kind of a technology company. So we wanted that little bit of ambiguity between because we do a lot of technology, not only working with it, but developing and building it. Our whole back end we built from the ground up. Our transaction management platform it's built from the ground up. Instead of just being a real estate company that sells real estate, we're developing tools in house, not by acquisition, but by construction to further make the business more efficient for agents. And we're currently working on our mobile app with AI assistant, et cetera, stuff like that, which you really only see massive companies do, but being the technology play and in real
yeah.
estate is kind of a prop tech firm, we're putting it in their hands in house.
Well, it reminds me of Tesla when people thought that it was a car company and really it was an information company and still is.
Yeah.
So
It's
that's
all just
awesome.
putting things together in a different way to make it work better for the consumer.
Well, and I thought about looking it up, but I wanted to hear it from you. So
Yeah.
makes
It
sense.
also means more in German. So if you look up the German meaning for it, I've heard all of those. I mean, we even had a musical artist, Khalid, published a song about us. It's called Location.
That's awesome.
Look at us.
Look at me now. All right, Steven, anything else before we wrap it up?
No, I don't have any other questions. Do you have anything,
Jonathan,
Jonathan?
anything else you wanted
I
to?
want to leave with one thing, and I'm going to go ahead and say you guys didn't tell me to say this or ask me to say this, but I just want to say it because I believe it. Um, when you are building and preparing for next year as a realtor, a broker, whatever your role is in the real estate industry, you all should be team leaders. And when I say team leaders, I don't mean you're mentoring or managing or bringing on other real estate agents. Your team is your title company, your lender, your inspector, your contractor, your insurance broker. All of these people are vital parts to your success within a transaction and the longevity of the experience.
100%.
So I would encourage you, if you haven't done so, to build out your team. Who is your trusted partner? Mortgage, title, insurance, home inspectors, moving companies, all of these. that ultimately affect you and your reputation to your consumers, every one of those elements is a chance for you to fail and lose the customer. But it's
Right.
also your opportunity to grab onto them and hold onto them for life. So build out your team if you haven't done so already, and make sure that you have your partners standing ready with you as part of your team.
Love it. Love it. All right. Well, that wraps it up. Those were perfect words to end our episode. So for everybody listening, thank you so much for joining us. This has been another episode of the Brutally Honest Loan Officers Podcast. Jonathan Lickstein, thank you for joining us. Much appreciated. Stephen, say bye.
See you guys.
See you.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks, Jonathan.